Michael Shore did not have trouble getting Trump supporters at a recent Trump rally to talk about race. And like Donald Trump themselves, they seem to mix up Obama with Biden because they sure seem to want to focus on him. Take a look at this.
He started all this trouble.
What trouble?
That's racism and all that.
The division of the United States has all come from Obama.
In what way?
Because he's black and he tore it one way and tore it one way. And I mean, they expect you to believe what they say and not let the American people think for themselves.
So it's all Obama's fault. Racism is Obama's fault because, of course, notably racism was not an issue more than like a decade and a half ago. Look, I don't want to be too critical on a couple of random people who went to a Trump rally. Although admittedly they did talk to a reporter, so they seem confident in their views. The reason that I think this is worth responding to isn't just because they said it, but because this seems reflective of so much that we see in Twitter comments and from commentators too. They really do want to put all of this onto Obama, and I find that to be very bizarre. First of all, because Obama wasn't president that long ago, or for that long. It kind of feels like, if we were to go back in history, there's been some racial division and strife in America before he became president. But also, it is such, even if you believe that there wasn't a problem before him, it's such a weird takeaway, considering what Obama faced as a president. I mean, we know that Donald Trump himself was a big part of the racist attacks against Barack Obama, the attempts to portray him as some sort of outsider, some sort of Muslim, and we're going to return to that and how that continues to pay dividends for the right. But the response to, like, the insane Tea Party response to his presidency, like, he received so much criticism. And I understand that they want to say that he ripped us one way, he ripped us another way, whatever the woman was saying. What did he do? Now, we don't know what their evidence for that is because they don't elaborate. But like, thinking back to his presidency, what did he do to drive national conversations about race? What massive policies did he put into effect that had racially divisive effects even? I'm not even saying intense. I don't know, but we keep hearing this to this day. And look, I think it is very appealing to people who might have opinions on race that they know are not popular or widely held to be able to have a scapegoat. And wouldn't it be convenient if the scapegoat was himself a black man? But I would come with at least a little bit of evidence if you're going to make claims like that. But like I said, the Obama is a secret Muslim thing is, again, something that Donald Trump helped to convince millions of Americans is true. And hey, what do you know? It is still paying dividends for them. Take a look at this.
I'm probably going to regret saying this, but I firmly hold that Obama's still in the White House. I think Obama is pushing Joe's buttons. If you look at Israel, Joe Biden called for a pause. Where do you think that came from? I think it came from Biden. I think it came from Obama himself. Those are his people. Surely he wants to give his people time to resupply and regroup.
When you say his people, whose people?
Islam.
Or whose people?
Obama's.
Why do you say that?
Well,
he wrote it in his book.
Yeah, it's
political winds shall shift. I stand with my brothers, and he's talking about the Muslim Brotherhood.
Exactly.
So you think that you're saying that he's a Muslim?
Yes.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh, Barack Obama?
Oh yes.
So there you see that they really want to have their conspiratorial cake and eat it too. So what Biden is doing is wrong, but it's not enough for Biden to be wrong. If he is calling for a pause in the attacks on Gaza, it can't just be that Biden believes that, or it can't even just be that Biden doesn't believe it, but he's facing pressure from the Democratic Party, the Democratic electorate, young voters, whatever, that are getting him to call for it. It has to be something else. It has to be that there's a puppet master behind the scenes, and what if it was still Obama? And look, I think that there are a couple different reasons why so many conservatives like the idea of Obama still being the puppet master. So, first of all, look, for racial reasons and for twisted religious reasons, since he's not a Muslim, they just prefer fighting him. They prefer fantasizing about how he is in charge. They just prefer the idea of hating him for his characteristics rather than Joe Biden. Joe Biden is, like, I agree with him a lot on substance and policy and rhetoric going back throughout his career, but he's an old, boring white guy, generally. It's not as exciting for a conspiracy theorist to think about him. That's why they have to imagine that he's a clone or a lizard or is, being manipulated like a puppet. And so with Obama, they get that. It's more fun to be against him. It's more fun to be against Hillary Clinton than Joe Biden. Joe Biden's boring. But then also, you get this Muslim spin on it that, it's not like we need a pause because America has generally at least told itself that it stands up for human rights and the lives of civilians. And so it would be consistent to do that in this case. No, he's doing it because they're his people. Do you see the get out of jail free card that's being deployed here in multiple different aspects? You don't have to consider the inherent value of the lives and dignity of the lives of the people in Palestine because he's just doing it because he's biased because he's a secret Muslim. It's these shortcuts, these tricks to not have to think like a decent thinking human, honestly, in a lot of different ways. You don't have to think about who Biden is, what his history is, how he's being perhaps affected by different aspects of his party or his base. It's all on Obama. And Obama can't care about civilian life. None of this can be based on wanting to save civilians who are needlessly dying in huge numbers every day, because he's just doing it because he's one of them. And look, I'm not even putting this all on those individuals. They were for years lied to by incredibly wealthy, well-connected, powerful Republicans in politics and media to believe these things. And people have difficult lives. They don't want to have to think critically and do research on all of this stuff. It's much easier to believe that everything's a massive conspiracy. There's an easy, simple, concise answer to every single thing. They find that very appealing, and this is how it manifests.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.